Coming at you guys again with another video. This video, the topic of discussion is concerning the gods. The gods. G-O-D-S, the gods. Who are the gods of the Bible? Over entering and understanding certain passages and book, chapter, and verses when it says God. Who are the gods? Share the video if you will. This is Solid Foundation Israelite Academy 2021. I am your host, Shabar Judah Israel. And please like, comment, and subscribe. You could take notes. You will need a Bible, composition book, pen, and pencils if you would like. So let's get it. Who are the gods in certain book, chapter, and verses and certain passages when it says God? I'm going to show you that most of the time when you see God in the Bible, it refers to judges. You have a book in the Bible that's called Judges, right? So let's go to that. It comes right after the book of Joshua, and it's called Judges, right? Now we know if you're dealing with the historical count on Judges, beginning with Joshua, because Joshua was the first judge, if you want to have it that way, Joshua was the first judge, and Israel was ruled approximately 356 years by judges. Some say 400 years. So judges, before Israel was appointed a king. You understand? Because we know the first king was who? Saul. King Saul. He was the first king of Israel. But before Israel had kings, right? Israel was ruled 356 years to 400 years by what you call judges. By what you call judges. Alright? And you had many judges. You had Barak, Gideon, Japhet, Samson, Samuel, and many more judges. Just see for yourselves. Judges were successive individuals, each from a different tribe of Israel chosen by God to rescue the people from their enemies and establish justice and practice of the Torah. That's what the obligation and the mission of judges were. Judges were successive individuals, each from a different tribe, because each tribe had a judge ruling over them. And they was chosen by God to rescue the Israelites from their enemies and establish justice and practice of the law, which is the Torah. Judges, they act as a lawgiver, or judge, or sometimes they act as a governor. Now the reason why I'm saying this, because you're going to come across the word G-O-D in the Bible. And that does not mean every time you come across the word G-O-D, that does not mean it's talking about the Most High, the creator of the universe, every time you encounter that. Because I'm here to explain, when you come across the word G-O-D, it's sometimes in reference to a judge or a governor. That's what I'm here to explain. How can we possibly know that? Because I'm going to show you something. Let's go back in the beginning. Go back to Genesis chapter 1. Watch this. It says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, when you look at that word in the beginning, it says God. When you look at that word God, it would take you back to the Strong Concordance number in the Hebrew, which is Hebrew 430. And when you go into the Hebrew Concordance of Hebrew 430, it says Elohim. And when you go into the biblical outline and meaning of that, it says gods, plural. See, Elo is God, singular. But if you say Elohim, that makes gods. That makes it plural now. Or sometime in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, you'll see Yom on the end. Yom means plural. So in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, they would say Elohim. In the Yiddish, they say Elohim. Elo is God. Elohim is gods. Dealing with the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, Allah is God. Elohim is gods, plural. So it's two different formations of Hebrew. All right? The ancient Paleo-Hebrew and what you call the Ezra script. The Assyrian Hebrew, or what some call Yiddish. Modern day Hebrew. And we can see right here in the concordance of Hebrew 430, it says in the beginning, it says the Elohim, which is the gods, created the heavens and the earth. Now guess what? That same concordance number for Hebrew 4 and 30 can be found in Exodus 21 and 6. When you read Exodus 21 and 6, it says then, it's because it's talking about the master and the servant. If you serve under your master for a completion of 7 years, then your master was to cut you loose. But if you pledge to be a servant of your master forever, it says then he'll put an awl through your ear. So this is dealing with Exodus 21 and 6. Watch this. Then his master shall bring him to the judges. See that? It says master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door or into the doorpost. And his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Now, dealing with Exodus 21 and 6, it says that if a servant didn't want to depart after 7 years of serving his master, and he wanted to be his master's servant forever, according to Exodus 21 and 6, it says, then his master shall bring him to the judges. Now, when you look at that in the Hebrew, it says that it's the exact same concordance number for Genesis 1 and 1. In Genesis 1 and 1, it says in the beginning, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, which is really in the beginning, the Elohim, the gods, plural. It's the same concordance number for Exodus 21 and 6. So really, when you look at the judges in Exodus 21 and 6, when it says, then his master shall bring him into the judges, that's Elohim. Hebrew 4 and 30, which is the same concordance number of Genesis 1 and 1. And guess what it is? It says gods. But in the English translation, it says judges. So I'm letting you see that every time you come across the word God, it's not talking about the creator of the universe. It's not talking about the Most High. It can be referred to judges. The book of Judges. The book of Judges. In the Hebrew Bible, it doesn't say the book of Judges in the Hebraic Bible. Even though in our Bible we have a book that's called Judges, in the Hebrew Bible, guess what it's known as? It's known as the book of the gods. That's what it's known as. So guess what, guys? You want to go throughout the book of Judges and you want to point out different governors that was appointed to different tribes to govern and rule over Israel, though they would be likening it to gods. So guess what? Let's start with the first judge. Who was the first judge? Othniel was the first judge. Othniel was a god. That's God 1. Who was the second judge? Ehud. That's God 2. Who was the third judge? Shamgar. That's God 3. Who was the fourth judge? Who was the fourth judge? Go backing up. The fourth judge was Deborah. Deborah was a female, so that was a goddess. Deborah was the fourth judge of Israel. Remember, before there was kings, there was judges. So before there was kings, there was gods. And a king can also be referred to a god, because I can show you that. So Deborah, which was the fourth judge of Israel, she was a goddess, man. See that? You see? And then it goes to Barak. And then from Barak, it goes to Gideon, which was the sixth judge. And it keeps going on. All these judges that ruled Israel for 356 years, approximately 400 years, all these judges was considered gods. So what make you think in the Hebrew Bible, it said the book of the judges? It didn't say that. It said the book of the gods. Even Rudolph Wisdom tells you best. And Rudolph Wisdom book, Judea Trembles on the Rome, he tells you in that book that judges in ancient times were referred to gods. So stop thinking every time you come across the word God that's talking about the God of the universe, that's talking about the Most High. You see? Because it's not Acts 13 and 20. And in Acts 13 and 20, here it is. Acts 13 and 20, it says, and after that he gave unto them judges about the space of 450 years until Samuel the prophet. So it just giving you a timeline, because I said 356 years to 400 years, so I was about right, that Israel had judges over them. So here it is in Acts 13 and 20. It tells you how many years that Israel had judges over them before there was an appointed king, which was the first king Saul. So Acts 13 and 20 says, and after that he gave unto them judges about the space of 450 years until Samuel the prophet. So how long that Israel had gods ruling over? Because it's 12 tribes and it's 12 tribes in Israel, right? So how many years that Israel had gods assigned over each of the 12 tribes ruling over them? Tells you right here. It tells you in Acts 13:20, it says 450 years Israel had gods, aka judges, ruling over them up until the time of Samuel. So when you come across the word God, it ain't referring only to the Most High of the universe. Now, if you look at that in the concordance, which I can't because I'm doing it on my phone, you'd be surprised what you come across. Look at Judges in the concordance. Look at Judges in the Greek. Because according to Acts 13 and 20, it says they had judges. Look at Judges in the Greek concordance. Tell me what you find. Till next time, shalom, brothers and sisters.